This video explains API 579 Fitness for Service Assessment (FFS) and the way Inspection 4 Industry LLC executes these evaluations to provide clear fitness for service conclusions for refinery and oil and gas equipment. API 579 Fitness for Service Assessment, also called FFS, is the industry standard used to evaluate pressurized equipment that has damage or flaws and determine whether it can safely remain in operation. It is used after inspection finds something like thinning, corrosion, pitting, cracking, hydrogen damage, distortion, or other conditions that raise an integrity concern. What makes API 579 powerful is that it turns inspection data into a decision. It does not stop at describing damage. It answers the questions that matter for operations and integrity teams. Is the equipment fit for service at current conditions? If not, what operating limits make it acceptable? And what repair or monitoring actions are required? At Inspection 4 Industry LLC, we perform API 579 Fitness for Service assessment work as a deliverable-based engineering service. You provide the inspection and operating basis. We perform the assessment using the applicable API 579 methodology, and we issue a complete report with the result. Let me explain exactly what that means in practice. When a client contacts us, the first step is not a long meeting. The first step is data. We request the inspection results and the minimum operating design information needed for the evaluation. That typically includes thickness measurements or scan files, equipment identification and dimensions, location of the damage, service and operating conditions, and any relevant history like corrosion rate assumptions or cycle history if cycling is part of the case. Then Inspection 4 Industry LLC selects the correct API 579 assessment route and level. API 579 has Level 1, Level 2, and Level 3 methods depending on complexity. The goal is always the same: reach a clear, defensible decision using the right level of analysis for the case. Now, let's talk about the number one reason companies request API 579 Fitness for Service assessment in oil and gas and in refineries, metal loss, and thinning. Here's a very typical refinery scenario. You have a crude unit fractionator or a vacuum column. During a turnaround, your inspection team performs a thickness survey and the data shows the shell has thinned more than expected in one course. Sometimes it's general thinning across a region. Sometimes it's heavier thinning in one band. Operations wants to know, can we run at current pressure and temperature? Can we run until the next turnaround? Do we need to re-rate or do we need repair now? This is exactly where Inspection 4 Industry LLC performs an API 579 Fitness for Service assessment for general metal loss. We take the thickness data, confirm the governing region, apply the proper evaluation method, and determine whether the remaining thickness supports current operation. If the evaluation shows the equipment is acceptable, the report states it clearly and includes monitoring and inspection recommendations aligned to the damage mechanism. If the evaluation shows it is not acceptable at current conditions, the report provides the re-rated operating limit or the required integrity action. So the site can make the decision with confidence instead of guessing. Now let's move to the second most common thinning case, localized metal loss. This one is very common in crude overhead systems, wash zones, and areas where flow patterns, impingement, under-deposit corrosion, or local chemistry create a concentrated low-thickness area. For example, consider an overhead reflux accumulator vessel or associated piping where the thickness scan shows a localized low point near a nozzle, weld, or attachment. The average thickness may look fine, but one localized region controls the integrity. In this case, Inspection 4 Industry LLC performs the appropriate API 579 Fitness for Service assessment for local metal metal loss. We use the detailed thickness profile to define the local thin area correctly, evaluate acceptability at the operating conditions, and determine whether the equipment can safely continue in service. Then we issue the report that states the decision in practical terms. Fit to continue operation as is, fit to continue with a re-rated limit or repair required, either immediately or planned for the next turnaround, depending on the outcome. A third very common case is pitting corrosion. This is typical in cooling water service, exchanger channel heads, water boxes, and certain overhead services. A few deep pits can become the controlling condition even when the rest of the component looks acceptable. In a typical case, the inspection file includes measured pit depths, pit density, and the location of pitting. Inspection 4, Industry LLC, performs an API 579 Fitness for Service assessment for pitting corrosion, determines whether the pitted region is acceptable for continued service, and provides a clear basis for the next inspection interval and any required integrity actions. The goal is simple: no guessing, no overreaction, and no underestimating the risk. Now, while metal loss and thinning drive many FFS requests, there are other important cases where API 579 Fitness for Service assessment is the right tool, and we provide those services too. Crack-like indications are one of them. If PAUT or TOFD reports a crack-like feature at a nozzle weld, shell weld, or attachment location on equipment such as a reflux drum, separator, or tower, the facility needs a clear answer on whether it can continue operating safely and what action is required. Inspection 4. Industry LLC performs the applicable crack-like flaw assessment route and issues a report that clearly states fit for service, required limits, and repair timing. Hydrogen damage is another. In sour service and hydrotreating related circuits, findings such as blistering, HIC, or SOHIC can create serious integrity questions. We perform the applicable API 579 Fitness for Service assessment pathway and issue a report that states whether the damage is acceptable for continued service and what monitoring or repair actions are required. The key point is this: Inspection 4, Industry LLC provides API 579 Fitness for Service assessment as a complete engineering deliverable. We take inspection data, we apply the correct API 579 method, and we deliver a clear result in a professional report. If you have thinning, corrosion, localized metal loss, pitting, or crack-like indications, and you need a code-based decision, contact Inspection 4 Industry LLC. Send us your inspection results and operating basis, and we will perform the API 579 Fitness for Service assessment and issue the report with the conclusion and next actions. Thank you.